Well, thank you so much, Sebastian, for introducing me. My name is Anja Hazekamp. I'm a co-host of this event, and I want to welcome everyone of you here in the room, and also the people are online or will be online soon, I hope. A special welcome to all of our experts. I want to thank my colleague, Sebastian, for initiating this event, because it is very important. As humans, we coexist with pigeons, and for many of us, it is common to see pigeons on a daily basis. But discussions on their welfare are less common, especially in this house. And that is why this event is so important. Our pigeons deserve much more attention. Here in Brussels and all other cities of Europe, we mostly see the feral pigeons, all descendants of the rock dove. And they thrive in cities because the urban landscape mimics their natural cliffside habitat. So they like it in the cities, and the cities are offering abundant nesting spots and steady human food sources as well. But we coexist with many other species as well. You see on the screen now people. I call it, well, it's my pigeon, so to say. Maybe there's two of them because I cannot identify them individually. But I share my balcony with this dove, or maybe one other people, and they come when I call them. They drink water when I'm sitting next to them. They take a bath. Here, he's looking at me while I'm reading a book, and he or she. This is also a rural species, but also a city species. And all pigeons living in cities have a few things in common. They are very intelligent, as you can see on people. It's a very intelligent animal. They learn fast, they recognize nice faces, they have adapted to traffic, they even use the crossroads. They wait for the green traffic light if necessary to stay safe and to are not hit by cars. But they are facing problems as well. While they are part of our urban wildlife, they are often considered pests. Therefore, it's important that cities take measures to protect them and to prevent them to being killed on a large scale. Positive measures taken include, for instance, building of dovecotes or pigeon houses for these doves. And because of their way of walking, they are prone to that their toes are being tangled in threads or hairs from humans. So I, for instance, have always my little kit with a scissors, a nail clipper, something to help an animal that has its toes entangled, because they even can amputate the whole foot if you don't help them. But we also coexist with a lot of pigeons in rural areas. Wood pigeons, like people, are hunted in most countries, but there is also a few countries that hunt migratory birds, like the Eurasian turtle dove. The color dove is also, I think, very common in cities as well. The turtle dove is killed in Spain, France, Portugal, but also in Malta. And Malta hunts in the spring season as well, which is especially threatening these doves because they cannot reproduce. And hunting migratory birds is illegal. It should not happen. So after being closed for certain years, The Maltese hunter are targeting this European turtle dove as we speak and will continue until the 3rd of March. And we are in close contact with BirdLife Malta, for instance, to stop this. And I think this is also a topic we need to keep addressing in this house. So enough from me about pigeons. I spoke for way too long. Oh, that's people in the bath. Oh, I love this animal. I'm looking forward to hearing of all of our experts contributions to improve pigeon welfare and improve peaceful coexistence. Because whether they are rock doves, wood pigeons, turtle doves, or peace doves, they all need our protection and help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anja. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to you here in the European Parliament. My name is Sebastian Everding from the Party for Humans, Climate and Animal Welfare, Tierschutzpartei in Germany. And pigeons have been living here on and around the Parliament for a long time. And now we are finally discussing this issue here inside the European Parliament. I'd also like to pass along warm regards from Bert and Berta. Instead of Anja, I missed taking photos of them, who have already had their breakfast on our balcony in Dortmund today and are very much looking forward to greater European cooperation on this topic. Now I will hand over the floor to Nick from the Eurogroup for Animal as the first speaker today. Nick, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sebastian and Anja. Well, it's absolutely lovely to be here. And I think my role today to kick us off is to talk about the European perspective where I can. And we'll talk about opportunities that are coming up for fostering coexistence with urban pigeons and other urban wildlife as well. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Eurogroup for Animals. We are a pan-European member organization, and we have a vision. And that vision is for a Europe that values and respects every wild animal as sentient beings. We have over 100 members right now. I think it's 107. It's changing all the time. And they're all animal protection organizations across the European Union and beyond. And we consider ourselves the voice of animals to the European institutions. And here I am sitting in one of those fine institutions today. Next slide, please. I'll start with a couple of calls to action today. So the first call to action is whenever we consider pigeon management, I don't like that word, or control, I also don't like that word. Let's first of all consider changing perspectives of how we view wild animals and how we view pigeons, because this is going to be the key to any management strategy actually working as well. Let's also find meaningful ways to promote good practices between member states, cities and municipalities when it comes to improving the welfare of management of pigeons as well. And there's a particular opportunity that I want to talk about today, which I will talk about later, where we can ask the European Commission to actually help. And that is to support a pilot project that is working on, well, that could work on this precise issue. Yep. So thinking about what words most people would use to describe pigeons, and I'm sure that's not us in this room today, but most constituents and many citizens do consider pigeons to be a pest, as we've heard. And there was a recent study that found that pigeons were actually the most negatively perceived species, often associated with disgust, contempt, and anger, which I can't understand myself. But it really goes to show we have a lot of work to do to actually change these perceptions. My own mother, knowing what I do for a living, whenever there's a pigeon or a seagull, we live by the coast, she goes, "Oh, there's another sky rat." And I think to myself, "Oh, Mum." And I am in endless conversations with her about this. If we could go to the next slide, please. Now, here's a collared dove, as we heard about just now. And I wonder if you showed this image to the same citizens, what kind of words might you get? If we could click. Mostly, it would be a different kind of association. We don't see as many collared doves. They don't aggregate in the city in the same way that the urban pigeons do. And we generally associate them with peace and garden tranquility. Next slide, please. But is this difference in perception really fair? That's where I want to really think about today. I mean, we used to respect urban pigeons or rock doves when there was a use. I'm going to put that in inverted commas because I'm not a fan of using animals in any way. But when they were used as messenger pigeons or for fanciful competitions, they were respected. But as feral animals without this perceived use, we tend to forget their intrinsic value. And that's a very important starting point for any conversation today. Now, the only real difference between these animals is their size and their color. And personally, I find the sort of iridescent colors of the urban pigeons absolutely gorgeous when it glistens in the sun, when they're walking across. Their behavior is absolutely amazing. When you see the cock pigeons puffing up its neck, trying to impress all the ladies, I find it absolutely fascinating, really nice. Yeah, let's be honest, if they were less common in our cities and we did associate them with our gardens or, as you said, only on our balconies in our relaxing time, everybody's perceptions would be different. So let's think about why we have this nuisance factor with pigeons. And as we've heard, pigeons are quite often artificially fed in cities. And very often, this is not just by human feeders, it's also by leftovers from restaurants or bins that are left open. And it provides an overabundance in certain areas within cities of food. And it allows these populations to grow in particular areas and huge aggregations of birds. And what it means is that, of course, birds, what goes in must come out. There's droppings happen a lot of the time. And, you know, when it's on statues or very concentrated droppings in different places, people associate this with health risks. They also associate it with damage and costs for cleaning and things like this. But actually, evidence doesn't demonstrate that pigeon droppings actually corrode buildings. And regarding the health, the risks are very, very limited indeed. So we really need to change this perception of the health risks when it comes to birds as well, and to pigeons. And so the problem is more of a perceived issue causing conflict rather than an actual issue itself. And that's why perceptions need to change. Next slide, please. So I want to clarify, I'm not advocating for filling our cities full of pigeons in every place, but we must really value them. But we need to understand the underlying causes of to why there's overabundance of pigeons, and we need to understand pigeons themselves to be able to change perceptions, change the narrative, and actually have management plans that are effective and promote the well-being of these animals. So we need to move from the perception of valueless to being sentient beings that can feel. I mean, these animals feel joy. They also feel pain and have the ability to suffer. We need to move from language like pests and vermin more towards cohabitants or neighbors. And we've heard from Anja that these lovely pigeons are often victims of our own uncleanliness if we have human hairs and threads on the street. And this narrative shift is not just for pigeons, it's also for all urban animals, and in fact, animals where you might consider them in the wild as well. Next slide, please. So I'm going to shift away from perceptions now to decision-making when it comes to an actual management practice. If we do decide that something needs to be done about the size of populations, how should we make that decision? And this framework should be used at European level, it should be used at member state level, at city level, and even on project-by-project basis. Now, this is from the International Consensus Principles for Ethical Wildlife Control, and it's a simple set of actions that should be taken before any decision is made. Now, the first part is to consider what humans are doing first. Now, normally, when we have a conflict, very often it's human behavior that is causing that conflict in the first place. So something, for example, with wild boar, this would help for pigeons. This would also help for rat coexistence issues. It's changing the system of rubbish bins. Just making, that's not an easy thing to do, but changing the way that we deal with our rubbish would already mitigate a lot of these perceived issues. So changing human behavior first before we do any management. Then all control measures should be justified. There should be a real reason for doing it. Not just we hear a few constituents causing a problem and then we go and kill all the animals that are causing that problem. No, that's not the reality. And it's also usually ineffective. There should be clear, justifiable reasons by evidence. All plans should be clear and achievable, and they should be socially acceptable. So, for example, with the pigeons, one good thing is that it's generally not accepted nowadays to use lethal management on pigeons. At least that perception is changing, which is why we're having a conversation today about humane, non-lethal methods as well. The plan should be done for long-term success and prevention. Prevention is always the key. There are some preventative methods for pigeon management which are not very good as well. So we need to be careful about how you decide what to use. And decision-making should be context-dependent and not based on labels. So this is the framework that I think every management decision should be made upon. Next slide, please. And the next one. So the question is, who is responsible? We're sitting here in the European Parliament. We're a stone's throw away from the European Commission. What can the Commission do about urban pigeons or city pigeons? Well, the last Commission made it fairly clear their perspective, which was that the European Commission does not have competence to legislate, at least, on urban pigeons. Now, does that mean that the Commission can get away with it? Absolutely not. We're here in the Parliament, where the Parliament can really put pressure on the Commission and ask the Commission to do things anyway. But what can we ask them to do? Next slide, please. Well, one way we can do this is through pilot projects, which are, they come from the European Parliament, and it's a project that the European Commission will then accept, and there will be a budget released for a very interesting project. Now, this has happened many times in the favor of animals, and there is actually a pilot project that is in the pipeline. It was adopted by the ENVI committee recently, and soon it's going to be in the hands of the Commission for them to make a decision. So it's up to us as citizens, and I hope MEPs can help as well, to push the Commission in the right direction to accepting that pilot project. And this is for municipalities and for coexistence and improved management of urban wild animals. And what would this project do? This project would provide a platform for municipalities to exchange information on good practices for urban management of animals. It would also provide guidance to foster coexistence and support effective, humane management for all different types of urban animals, and pigeons are particularly in mind with this project. And why should it be cities and municipalities? Well, it's these people who are dealing with this on a daily basis. It's them who have the expertise, and it's them who need to be empowered to make the right decisions and given the knowledge as well from the experts that are here today. So I come back to my calls. The first one is, any time that we do deal with pigeons, let's change perceptions first. When we're making decisions about what to do, let's use those international consensus principles or a similar framework. And a concrete action is, let's get the Commission to allow this pilot project to happen, which would release a budget next year for this to actually become a reality. I think my time is up, so I'll leave it there and we can get to more specifics later. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Dr. Elisabeth Preuss from the Pigeon Clinic. She will tell us about veterinary insights on pigeon welfare.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm a veterinarian specialized in pigeons. And therefore, I very often have to work with my local authorities to find ways to help pigeons despite EU laws. That's my problem here. But pigeons without rings fly free and do not follow human regulations. And borders and laws are man-made, diseases follow biology. And there are so much fake news about pigeons. Mammals are almost the cause of zoonosis, for example, of course, because we are mammals. It was really bad in 2016. Sorry. It was really bad in 2016. We had numerous calls every day from panicked people all terrified about bird flu. Pigeons are dead-end hosts, very resistant and do not spread this disease. Pigeons are always special. They have their own salmonella, non-zoonotic. About 10% of city pigeons nearly have chlamydia. That is nearly the only real danger, but not when you walk through the city. It's a problem when you clean a dirty, dry place or loft. In biology, 1 + 1 = 4. Biologically, only 1 + 1 - 2 results in a stable population. Every animal species has as many successful offspring as its habitat allows, and they produce last reserves. Those who do not do, like the dodo, they extinct. If we want to reduce pigeon mortality, we need to exchange eggs. If we want it without to kill them. And membership in pigeon associations is declining while the number of city pigeons is constantly increasing, like the wood pigeons if they come into the city. Therefore, we need the exchange of the eggs. Especially easy to keep animals are often kept in far too large numbers, or they keep themselves in far too large numbers. And sometimes the keepers or the cities lose overview with danger of animal hoarding. And city pigeons have animal hoarding problems in the city by themselves. It's not bands that protect, but knowledge. You cannot ban stupidity. You have to fight it with education, and therefore we need education for pigeons. But others are surely talking about that today. The other speakers, I think. I'm focusing on the fake news that are into the European law at the moment. EU law is sometimes, if the fox eats the goose, kill the dog. The interpretation of food animal, for example, is a regular reason why vet cannot help the pigeon. This is not a problem for pigeons with rings, but it is the big problem for pigeons without rings, like city pigeons. Pigeons need harmonization because pigeons fly greater distances than the local authority can regulate, and therefore they are often afraid of law interpretation. And up for human is the idea of the authority. Currently, many things are difficult or even impossible. Veterinarians often have to comply with either animal welfare laws or veterinary drug regulations. In real life, most pigeons in Europe do not wear rings. And exact location of every pigeon at any time is unrealistic. You see here on the page. And the problem is, how can you document that this particular pigeon without a ring is not a meat pigeon? That's at the moment the problem in the law. For example, the most common treatable disease, trichomonas, everyone knows it, I think. The medicaments are illegal for food animals. To solve these problems, we need a new definition. Pigeons are completely excluded from fruit production, and additional meat pigeon definition has to be implemented. Meat pigeon is a pigeon kept for food production or whose owners are documented and registered this. You do not have to make a new law for this. You look at Belgium, there's a precedent solution. Now I change to a complete new point. That's pigeon paramyxovirus. I think everyone knows it too. It's a viral infection and it's endemic worldwide, meaning it occurs constantly and everywhere in free pigeons and regularly also in captive pigeons, especially because in a free city pigeon, when a human cares for it, becomes a kept pigeon in the meaning of the most authorities. Homing and ornamental pigeons are vaccinated with licensed vaccines special for pigeons. Numerous city pigeon enthusiasts vaccinate as many free-living pigeons as possible. Yes, PPMV is very similar to Newcastle disease virus. However, they can be easily distinguished in the laboratory. Furthermore, the pigeon virus is adapted to pigeons. And moreover, pigeons very rarely have antivirus. The EU blanket's use of aves creates a completely false impression. Currently, the situation is as if there were no problem with PPMV in the EU or in the pigeon, and it's being handled legally in the same way as avian flu. Must calls always and almost everywhere restriction zones. Theoretically, this should mean that there are no city pigeons in lofts at all, because there are always PPMV cases and therefore they would always have to be killed, since they are neither genetically rare nor financially valuable. What would happen if everyone followed the current law? Overburnt authorities, overburnt labs, stand still in the poultry industry, mass killings of city pigeons as soon as they fly into lofts, and no veterinarian could help them because there is a standstill for travel. You cannot bring your bird to the vet if it's ill. That would be crazy, this situation. And all without being able to eradicate PPMV because it's a disease in the wild pigeons. Poland and Brandenburg have actual studies showing that pigeons were in no case involved in the actual ND outbreaks in poultry. I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but it's not that difficult. I cannot eradicate a wildlife disease by killing captive pigeons. That would be, like I've said, if the fox eats the goose, kill the dog. It is ethically wrong to kill healthy vaccinated animals, especially since PPMV does not have an impact on ND outbreaks. Therefore, it would be help if you promote poultry vaccinations, because PPMV is only problematic for poultry in non-vaccinating countries, and effective vaccines have existed for decades. And it is time to rethink old habits and start vaccination chickens or turkeys, a question of ethics, I think. But the solution for the pigeon is that the EU only must follow the VOA definition and restrict ND to poultry, completely without pigeons, and separate new special point only for pigeons. Quarantine for paramyxovirus infected pigeons and their loft, no restriction zones, especially because quarantine works, as the Berlin Animal Shelter shows, again in 2025, together with the FLI. I hope they will publish in the next time this study. There is a second problem between animal disease law and veterinary pharmaceutical law. There are licensed and fully protective PPMV vaccines for pigeons. The paramyxovirus vaccination of pigeons also provides complete protection against ND. And on the other side, and veterinary medicinal products shall be used in accordance with the term of the marketing authorization. The actual law states that pigeons must be vaccinated against Newcastle disease virus. Authorities often misunderstand this and instead require chicken vaccines for pigeon. But this misuse raises a question of responsibility. Should a private veterinarian be held liable for an official order? No, I think. Furthermore, chicken vaccines are less effective and reliable in pigeons and are also excreted and spread. The solution is very easy, change wording. Pigeons have to be vaccinated with pigeon PPMV vaccines. Here you can see the correct wording. What I mean would be the correct wording. Our proposal does not change law's meaning, simply makes it easier to understand and write down what it's meant. Vaccinating pigeons with a licensed vaccine and doing so in accordance with pharmaceutical law. This would empower veterinarians to trade pigeons, for example. And the third and my last point. And there are also problems with the word avis in the context of avian flu. Even a non-specialized knows that a pet bird in an apartment does not pose the same risk as 10,000 chickens in a free-ranged environment. At the moment in the EU law are only rare possibilities to exceptions in case of avian flu. However, this does not reflect the real risk. I'm not sure if you heard it. In Berlin last, I think it's December, there was a big shitstorm in Berlin against avian flu and pigeons. And our ministry has immediately published a statement for pigeons. That was a great thing that they react immediately overnight. Large numbers of poultry are particularly vulnerable to avian influenza. Poultry with poor biosecurity is also a risk, and waterfowl especially problematic. And on the other side, everyone knows, or I hope everyone knows, that pigeons pose a negligible risk as they are dead end hosts. Pigeons have a lower risk of avian influenza than cats or minks, foxes, or cows. They are mammals. Good example was Greiz last year in the autumn with separated epidemiological units. There was dead chickens, and the pigeons were housed in separated lofts, and they were healthy and they were alive. That was a very good example for the pigeons. Therefore, EU regulation requires differentiation based on risk analysis. It's not just the number of a bird or only the money that is important. It's the species too. The species and their susceptibility. Pigeons, for example, are dead end hosts. They do not spread. Germany had this in its avian influenza regulation from 2018 for pigeons. Do you remember why? In 2016, we had mass of people in mortal fear when they saw a sick pigeon, and Germany took action. And the Netherlands has actually defined it very clearly in this legal regulations today. There is no need to build anything new. Proven strategies can be adopted and harmonize EU law. We have only to do it, or you have only to do it.
Okay, I will do it. Possible to wrap it a little bit up because we're running.
It's my last.
Oh, perfect.
It's my last page.
Perfect.
Here you have only the solutions. That's why I'm making this request at the end. Please help the peace bird. And thank you very much for your interest in pigeons. And I'm happy to answer questions later after it.
Thank you very much for these deep medical veterinary insights. Now we have to switch the panel and say goodbye to Anja and to Nick also. Thank you for being part of this event. For Anja and me, it's very important for our political work to learn about the different situations across Europe. And that's why we are very delighted to have so many experienced animal rights activists here today, and they will share the best practices across Europe with us. And so I will call Coco Freudenberg, Murta de Dosoro Milharo, sorry for the bad pronunciation, and Nina Kopp here to the panel. Thank you. See you later. Now it's the best time to grab some more food or drinks. We're running out of time because of technical problems in the beginning. I'm so sorry. So we will start in Germany with Coco from the Tiernotruf.
Okay. Hi, dear guests, I'm Coco Freudenberg. I'm 29 years old. I come from Düsseldorf in Germany. I have been working in a technical animal rescue for over 10 years now, and I'm here today to speak about our animal rescue and the reality about pigeons in cities. And our missions are often complex. We perform water rescues, rescues at height, and work in hard to reach places, entering shafts or climbing onto roofs and trees to help animals. Nothing is too complicated for us when it comes to the animals, and our mission is clear. We'll do everything we can for every single animal in need. We develop our own capture and rescue equipment. My colleague designs and builds custom rescue solutions himself. And we don't leave until the animal is rescued. This applies to every animal. To give people a better understanding of our work, we film our missions with action cameras and share the footage on social media and television. Our motto is we don't discriminate, not based on how big or small they are, not based on how difficult a mission is, and not based on whether an animal is popular or unpopular in society. Yet this is precisely the distinction our society makes every day. And that is why I would like to talk about an animal that reflects exactly that, the pigeon. I'd like to take you into our daily routine. A daily routine is in which pigeons account for a large portion of our calls. Sometimes we handle up to 10 calls a day that are exclusively about pigeons. Pigeons that are injured, pigeons that can no longer fly, pigeons that urgently need help, pigeons that experience violence at the hand of humans in whatever form. They are poisoned, shot at, kicked, and despised. Often we also deal with pigeons that are locked up or trapped in cages. They are trapped behind nets, in shafts, or in attics, sometimes for days, without water, without food, and they die right there. We see pigeons that have to live amidst so-called deterrent measures, between spikes, between wires, behind nets. But these measures often don't work as intended. Pigeons still nest there. They sit between the spikes or behind them, and in doing so, they seriously injure themselves. Young animals get trapped. Adult animals also die in agony. And all this happens right in the middle of our cities, visible and yet invisible. Because the real problem isn't just the suffering, but that this suffering is socially accepted. It has become normal to speak ill about pigeons. It has become normal to chase them away by any means necessary. The hatred directed at this animal is particularly extreme. Every day we see companies that are hired to scare away pigeons, but what we witness on the ground is often unprofessional and does not comply with animal welfare standards. An example from my daily work, when we receive a report of an injured pigeon that can no longer fly, I always tell the people on the phone, please stay where you are. This is something I rarely have to say so urgently with any other animal. Because with pigeons, we know if no one is there when we arrive, we often no longer find the animal alive. It gets overlooked, it is tormented, or simply left to its fate. Then we often find them dead, abused, or run over. And yet, pigeons are so much more than the image which we have of them. Over the past 10 years, I've become to love pigeons incredibly. They are social, they care for their mates and their chicks, they are monogamous and stay with their mates for years. They fight, sometimes for days, to protect their young. And they are incredibly survivors. They survive injuries that no other animal would survive. That's fascinating, but it's also a problem, because this resilience often means that their suffering lasts longer. And now we come to a crucial point. The urban pigeon population is not a natural problem. It is a human-made problem. These animals are not classic wild animals. They are feral domestic animals. They are descended from carrier pigeons or breeding pigeons, and we raise them with an induced brood drive. This means they are designed to reproduce constantly. They breed year-round, no matter how badly they are faring. And so we leave them behind in our cities, without structure, without responsibility, and in the end, we blame the animals. That's not just fair, it's just not fair. We're taking away the animals' habitat, even the pigeons. And at the same time, we expect them to disappear, to be invisible. Another important point is the ban on feeding. It has been proven not to help reduce the population. On the contrary, it leads to pigeons having to feed on garbage. that they become sick and weakened. When pigeons are denied proper food, they are forced to eat waste, which makes them sick and leads to more harmful droppings. These droppings are bad for the buildings, not the droppings of healthy pigeons. If we really want to make a difference, we need different solutions. In my view, there is a clear path forward. Supervised pigeon lofts, medical care, species-appropriate feed, and egg replacement. This works, and it reduces suffering in the long term. It's in line with animal welfare and helps control the pigeon population. Of course, it requires effort and responsibility, but we should bear this at the root cause of this problem. To conclude, I'd like to give you a brief example. There's a bridge near us, a perfectly ordinary bridge in the city, not particularly large, but it's a home about like 300 pigeons. Their volunteers have replaced 3,800 eggs over the course of a year in a single location. If you extrapolate that, it becomes clear that how urgent the act is and what potential lies in this solution. Because 3,800 eggs represent 3,800 instances of potential pigeon suffering prevented. And at the same time, they also represent something else, less rejection, for less hatred toward these animals, for a collaborative and animal-friendly solution, because the pigeons aren't to blame. The responsibility lies with us. Compassion shouldn't depend on how popular a living creature is. I don't expect anyone to love pigeons, but I do expect them to be respected. I hope I've been able to help you understand that the pigeons aren't the problem and that they don't deserve their reputation. I will always stand up for pigeons and for every other animal until they are seen and respected, because every life matters and every animal deserves help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coco. From my left, now to my right. Nick, the floor is yours.
Hi, I am missing my presentation.
Maybe one moment.
Yes, this one, exactly. I'd like to get a little philosophical with you now. The slogan, "Leave animals alone," is quite popular in animal activism, despite its easily exploitable weak spots. Next slide, please. We as humanity shape our world on an unimaginable scale, leading to fun stuff like climate change, plastics in even the deepest parts of the ocean, and whole species going extinct due to our actions, intentional or not. Next slide, please. Leave animals alone seems quite simple. The assumption is you just need to do nothing. They will do their thing, we will do ours. But with the impact we have, things get complicated. Doing nothing isn't equal to doing no harm. Next slide, please. Our collective choices influence the world around us all the time. Point really is, there is no doing nothing. We always do something, and that something has an impact. Next slide. You may ask, why is it relevant to the pigeon topic? Next slide. Most of us don't pay much attention to them, but in many ways we influence and even harm them. Next slide. Things as simple as losing hair or ripping some loose thread of your clothes can injure them badly. This is known as string foot and is sadly very common. We already heard about that. They lose toes or even their whole foot by those fibers cutting off the blood flow to their extremities. Next slide. Glass is a big problem too, to all birds, honestly. Invisibility, reflections, and a hard surface are the perfect recipe for disaster. Next slide. Here you see like it's a whole front of just glass and reflection, and all they see is an open sky. Next slide. Collisions with cars and other motorized vehicles pose another deadly threat to them. But all of these examples of harming them are just by living our lives. It's not doing something to them explicitly. Next slide. But we did something pretty explicit to them. Pigeons, meaning the ones we most hanging around our cities, Columba, Livia, forma domestica, were domesticated by us. We brought them to places they are not meant to be, and we made them dependent on us. They are specialized seed eaters, granivores. They need around 30 to 40 grams of food each day just to sustain themselves. Food that isn't available in the urban environment. So most nestlings simply starve, while the adults are in a constant state of malnourishment and also starving in great numbers. A state that as a result leads to diarrhea. That's the pigeon poop we all are very familiar with. Big wet droppings are a symptom of hunger. Healthy pigeon poop doesn't look like that. Many cities implement no feeding policies and means to control the pigeon population. Food leads to more birds, implying again that leaving them alone is the right thing to do. But in reality, not feeding them simply results in more pigeons starving. Historically, many cities regularly poisoned pigeons but faced backlash because the act of poisoning is quite blatantly doing harm. So no feed policies seem harmless in comparison, but for the pigeons, the result is nearly identical. It's death either way. We far too often ignore the existence of pigeons in the way we build our cities, creating perfect spots for them where we don't want them. The solutions are an afterthought and merely addressing symptoms, often done in a way that is ineffective in keeping them out, but regularly traps them tangled in nets or pierced by spikes. Next slide, please. Another common way pigeons get trapped are vacant buildings. Investors buy property for future profit while the buildings decay over time, allowing pigeons to enter, either creating big colonies or leading to dozens of them not finding a way back out with death as a result. Next slide. But they stay even if they live in those hostile circumstances. For each pigeon dying of hunger or injury, follow enough that they are present in big numbers. How, you might ask? Well, that's the result of our greed. We selectively bred them to reproduce non-stop for more eggs, more meat, a trait they carry to this day. Next slide, please. To put this as blatantly as one could, we keep them alive and submit them to endless suffering. We created pigeon hell. Next slide. These pictures you see are just the dead birds we gathered from one single bridge. There are several ages, from baby to teenage, because they really don't get old in our cities. Next slide. That's the same pile. It's a big pile of dead birds. Next slide, please. And another wonderful dead bird. Next slide. And this is our the things we see commonly when we work with pigeons in our cities. Next slide. So here's what we need to do. We need to take responsibility. To end the existence of that pigeon hell we need to correct our wrongdoing and stop the endless reproduction. We need to reduce the eggs of hell. We need to reduce the eggs hatching. Next. Even though pigeon babies are adorable, and you can fight me on this, we need to avoid them as much as possible. No babies in pigeon lofts, no babies on balconies, and no babies at bridges or other public infrastructure. Next slide. To reach this goal, education is key. Most people are not aware of pigeon hell. We are conditioned to look away and leave them alone. So first we need to change that. Next slide. Patience is also very important. The pigeon took centuries to create. Solving it will take time. In theory, pigeons can get 15 years old. So if we reduce the offspring, the old ones should stay around for quite some times. Next slide, please. Reducing the offsprings in pigeon can be done in a way that isn't causing any additional suffering. The eggs can be taken before any serious development occurs. Well, actually, we are lucky that they have external pre-packaged babies, if you think it that way. Next slide, please. Best practice are so-called pigeon lofts. They get food, water, and a safe space to exist, but also collecting any laid egg is much easier that way. The pigeons mostly hang around their new found home, and therefore the poop also stays where it isn't a nuisance to other people. Next slide, please. Egg exchange can and should be done everywhere possible. With the help of more and more educated people, we can reach nests on private property like balconies. Next slide. But the really important part is public infrastructure. And that means a lot of difficult work. Next slide. Here you can see us working at doing our duty at egg exchange in public infrastructure. There are narrow crawling spaces, there are high places on bridges, as you see on the next slide. It's very labor intense, but it's doable. So next slide, please. And of course, the no baby thing is very ambitious, and we never will reach the 100% rate, and sometimes we are too late, and sometimes this, like you see, is the result. But our numbers are growing, and more people are aware of the pigeon problem, are aware of pigeon hell. So next slide, please. What we need to do is we need to get together politics, general public, animal welfare organizations like us. That's a problem we can't handle alone because it's so labor intensive, and the problem got so big over time that it can only be solved when working together. Next slide, please. So we won't leave them alone. We will do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. I will give now the floor to Nina. And I should mention here that Nina wasn't just enjoying the time leading up to the event in the sun or in an outdoor cafe, but she was already actively helping animals on the streets of Brussels. You can see it on the social media accounts. So Nina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, when Coco, Mick and me arrived yesterday, we hadn't met before, we said we want to do some sightseeing. But when we walked around, we don't have an eye for the beautiful buildings because we see the suffer in the streets. In a short time, we catched 4 pigeons, 1 baby pigeon with a broken leg, 1 adult with a broken leg, and 2 with hairs and at the feet. And like Anja, of course, we also have little scissors to cut it. And yeah, sightseeing is not easy for pigeon rescuers because we see all the suffer in the streets. And during my walk from the hotel to this place, I counted 83 pigeons today. And why are there so many pigeons in our cities, and why are we responsible for them? Urban pigeons are descendants of domesticated birds. They now live wild but remain dependent on cities for food and nesting. Pigeons depend on grains, but the urban habitat provides no corn. At the same time, the human-bred reproductive drive endures constant population growth. Consequently, pigeons suffer extensively from starvation, malnutrition, injuries, and sickness. If they could cry like humans, like us, our cities will be filled with their screams. My name is Nina Kopp and I'm from Wuppertal, Germany. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today about our work for and with pigeons. I will present our care and treatment center as a tool to improve urban pigeon lives. I'll explain its structure and daily work, demonstrating how projects like ours, combined with measures such as supervised pigeon love, balance animal welfare with the public interest in fewer, healthier pigeons and cleaner cities. How would it begin? 2019, several women from Partei realized that no one felt responsible for sick or injured birds. Local authorities recommended putting the birds back on the streets to die. Vets refused to treat them or offer only to put down the pigeons. The woman founded the non-profit association Fliegende Schönheiten, which means flying beauties. A former shop near the city center was rented, renovated, and the first pigeons were taken in for care. Since then, our care and treatment center is open every single day of the year. Nearly 4,000 pigeons have been admitted and treated. We now take in an average of 2 pigeons a day. The reasons pigeons are brought to us are diverse. Very poor general condition due to lack of food or improper nutrition. Fractures and head injuries caused by landing trauma or collision with vehicles. Chicks or young pigeons that have fallen from the nest. Infectious diseases. Strings or hair wrapped around their feet, which could cripple them for life. Injuries caused by animals or humans, such as little Rocky, who was brought to us with multiple fractures because children has used him as a football. It is important to emphasize that none of these diseases pose a threat to the humans. Also, the association was founded to care for city pigeons. We also receive victims of the racing pigeon sport, abandoned fancy pigeons, and released wedding doves, as there were no alternatives. What does a pigeon station look like and how does it work? A pigeon station works much like a small hospital. It is split into clear areas. In the charity room, new arrivals receive initial care and observation from volunteers. A recovery room supports healing, while the nursery houses chicks and young pigeons grow up together. An in- and outdoor aviaries train the muzzle flies and help the pigeons adjust to the weather. Depending on the concept, may serve as permanent home for disabled or fancy pigeons. A storage room for food and beddings and supplies, as well as the kitchens, are also essential. Minor cases and ongoing treatments are handled by our volunteers who have gained extensive expertise over the year. More serious cases are taken to Dr. Poy's pigeon clinic, located 40 kilometers away for diagnosis or surgery. Because feather dust can cause high particulate levels indoors, good ventilations, air purifiers, and protective masks are necessary. The center should be located in the city center. Direct access to a pigeon loft or supervised feeding site is advantageous. What happens to the pigeons? 30% are chicks raised by us. They are integrated in a cooperation pigeon lofts. In return, we take in their sick and injured pigeons. 25% are released back into their original environment, to the location where they were found, because the pigeon is territorial and loyal to their nesting places and one selected partner. 20% must be euthanized by a vet due to severe injuries or overall poor prognosis. 50% are in such a critical condition that they die shortly after arrival. 10% cannot be released due to permanent disability or because they are racing or fancy pigeons. We try to place them with private pigeon keepers. Sadly, since there are few keepers, these healthy pigeons tie up space at our center. So in the worst case scenario, we must stop accepting sick or injured pigeons. Next slide. Yeah. Let's talk about money. Running the care and treatment center requires countless hours of volunteer work. But in addition to passion and commitment, financial resources are essential. In 2025, our operating costs amounted to around about 45,000 euro. The main cost factors are rent, including utilities, medical care, food and nutrition supplements, consumables such as bedding, cleaning, supplies. We receive no support from the city or the state. We rely entirely on private donations and membership fees. Next slide. A care and treatment center is more than a place where pigeons recover. It is also a think tank for further projects. For instance, our egg swapping project, launched in December 22, has replaced nearly 6,000 pigeons' eggs with dummies at 20 hotspots. Since pigeons begin to breeding at 6 months of age, this project has humanly prevented far more than 6,000 new pigeons and saves the city around about 60 tons of dropping and cleaning costs. Egg replacement has been proven effective way to limit population size and effective suffering and prevent suffering. We work with the local press and social media to raise public awareness on the pigeon's plight. We inform people about our activities and counteract common myths such as allergy disease transmission or structural damage to building. Better pigeon management benefits all. It reflects the city's human and modern values and foster compassion and responsibility, especially in our children. While costly deterrents like spikes or nets merely displace a problem, effective urban pigeon management utilizes lofts and egg swapping significantly reduce cleaning expenses and improves the cityscape. Ultimately, every city benefits from such comprehensive pigeon management and dedicated care stations. What is needed? Uniform guidelines regarding component urban pigeon management. Publicly funded pigeon lofts and strengthening of volunteers with the framework of animal welfare. Thank you very much for your time and your interest and for allowing me to speak today on behalf of those who have no voice of their own.
Before I will introduce the next speaker, I say welcome to Tilly Metz, another voice of the animals here in the European Parliament. Our next speaker is online, Andreas Goldschmidt from Stadttauben Saarbrücken. Andreas, can you hear us? Please unmute your microphone and then we are all able to hear you. You're still muted. I see you, but I cannot hear you.
He has to do it by himself.
How it must go?
Yes, it works. We hear you. The floor is yours. Welcome to the Parliament online.
Hello, friends. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Andreas Goldschmidt. I'm 63 years old and I'm living near the French border in Germany. A little town, Völklingen, near Saarbrücken. I want to explain something. All things are said. I keep it brief. I want to explain why it is often so difficult to establish an urban project for pigeons, and I have 5 reasons. The first, the acceptance of such projects by administrations and authorities is not particularly high. Pigeons generally still have a very bad reputation, even among citizens and city dwellers. Therefore, a great deal of persuasion and public relation works is required. The next point, the financing of such projects often has to be largely covered by volunteers. Grants can be applied for through animals welfare organizations such as the German animal welfare federations or animal welfare foundations in the individual states. The city itself may provide an annual grant. Perhaps. The next point, the important point, the choice of location for the pigeon loft is essential. The pigeon loft comes to the pigeon, not the other way around. This could be a wooden structure, a pigeon room, or a mobile caravan. The location is therefore determined by the pigeons. It might be necessary to rent the space privately, which isn't ideal, or the city might provide a space, no one of its properties, which is a good solution. The next point, the ongoing care provided by volunteers required a high level of expertise, and a sufficient number of volunteers must be available on site. A strong community is essential. Ideally, the pigeon loft is cleaned daily and the eggs are replaced. The motto here is food for eggs. In addition, an urban pigeon project should also have street walkers and foster homes to ensure a rapid response to reported emergencies and to transport injured, sick, or orphaned birds to the veterinarian. This in turn requires many volunteers. Urban pigeon projects are long-term, sustainable initiatives that must be implemented over several decades. As you can see, establishing a successfully urban project is truly not easy. For me in Germany is one thing most important: the city pigeons, Columba livia forma domestica. In Germany, the pigeons are always domesticated animals. And this had many things with law to do, with the handling, the management here in Germany. And that's my hope that that it is completely in other countries the same thing. The pigeons are domesticated animals, and we are verantwortlich. We are as human being, we are for these animals here. This is my little hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you for your work in Saarbrücken. We will now leave Germany and switch over to Italy. Our next speaker is Marco Dinetti from BirdLife Italia. Marco, do you hear us? Then the floor is yours. I see you. And
yes.
Say something. Yes,
Good
perfect.
morning.
Welcome here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for your invitation. I can try to share. Can you see something?
Not now. Did you send your presentation before? Then we can start your presentation here on our computer and we will share it to the audience.
Okay. Can you share my slides?
We are trying to do it. One moment.
No, this is the text. I have sent you the slides.
Now we see your presentation. There's a letter.
Yeah, this is the text, but
okay.
I have also the slides.
Yeah, then please continue.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, now we see your screen and your presentation. Yes, you can start.
Okay, thank you very much. The urban population of feral pigeons, Columba livia forma domestica, in Italian piccione or colombo, originated from escaped or released domestic birds. In turn, domestic pigeons date back to rock dove Columba livia, bred since ancient history. At present, the feral pigeon lives a controversial status. It is either loved or hated. In this case, the definition of opportunist problematic pest birds is usually applied. These are the species whose populations have steadily increased due to their ability to exploit resources manufactured by man, namely food and breeding sites. They represent a little part of urban avifauna, 2.8% of the species monitored in Italian cities. Beyond feral pigeons, the species that require careful management in Italian cities are starlings, Turnus vulgaris, yellow-legged gull, Larus michaelis, magpie pica pica, hooded crow, Corvus coronecornix. The principal problems impacting on human activities involve agriculture and raising of livestock, damage to monuments and buildings, threats to urban cleaning and health, bird strikes at airports. Opportunity. We think that the core of the matter is not choosing between thumbs down or not, but rather to promote a better relationship with people. Particular attention is required where there are a density of pigeons, or in particular situations that need a policy of rebalancing. The coexistence between humans and other animals is possible and requires an integrated pest management with coordination between various actions, as well as the participation and collaboration among public administration, citizens, and operators. The main goal is the reduction of the environmental carrying capacity. At the basis of the strategy to implement, there is food limitation, food offered by citizens and that spread unintentionally in the environment at waste disposal sites, agricultural fields, silos, and so on. Moreover, it is necessary to manage breeding sites in a selective way, taking care of non-target species such as swifts, swallows, sparrows, bats, and so on. Through the proper installation of exclusion systems such as nets, armlet spikes, monofilament lines. Other possible actions are the increase of predators with nest boxes and the management of dovecotes. We are not for intrusive and cruel techniques, not do we suggest the use of contraceptives out of ethical reasons. Moreover, these does not solve any problems from a demographic perspective because population levels recover quickly. Another important issue related to urban ecosystems is the support of biodiversity, and this also from a cultural point of view. It is worth pointing out that in cities there are many species of birds. For example, in Italy, which excels in the publishing of urban ornithological atlases, so far we have published 72 studies concerning 47 urban areas. The richness ranges from 44 to 109 breeding bird species. So it is paramount importance for people to know and appreciate all the species of animals, including birds and plants. Urban biodiversity is closely related with the management of green areas. At present, the Nature Restoration Law offers a decisive tool to an ecological improvement of urban ecosystems. L'IPU, BirdLife Italy, has cooperated with many municipalities from some decades, carrying out different activities, including bird census and monitoring of pigeon populations, citizen opinion polls, projects aimed at suggesting management guidelines, information campaign, drawing out of documents, books, scientific pamphlets and popular booklets, the promotion and the organization of courses and conferences. To achieve a better coexistence and management of feral pigeon, we have singled out the following shortcomings, whose solution represent a priority challenge. Lack of coordination between administration and experts, lack of long-term programs, the attitude of band-aiding the emergency situation rather than planning beforehand, repeated management mistakes, new administrators and managers of municipalities, construction defects and lack of awareness of affecting designers' work, which lead to the unintentional realization of additional breeding sites for pigeon in buildings. Feral pigeons are important representatives of urban ecosystems. As for most common urban bird species worldwide, it is necessary to study these species and get to know it better. Thank you so much for your attention.
Grazie mille, Marco. Arrivederci, Italy. And now we will switch to France. Our first speaker from France is Valérie. Oh, I choose Latin at school and not French, sorry.
Hello.
Valérie, do you hear us?
Yeah, we hear us. Do you hear us?
Yes. Please start.
I'm Laurent. I'm friend of Valérie, who translate from her. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Commission. Thank you for giving me opportunity to speak about urban pigeons. We'll focus primarily on situation in France and on experience gained through my associations, Pigeon Bizet of Occitanie. Our collective behaviors as European societies claim to be civilized and reveal profound contradiction. For a long time, we have regarded pigeon merely as resource to be used, controlled, and modified, or eliminated according to our needs. We exploit them, devalue them, abort them, and as soon as they no longer serve our interest. This utilization relationship inherent from outdated view living beings is no longer compatible with ethical and scientific principles that underpin today European policies on animal welfare. European level action is essential. In federal rock pigeons is present on all European cities. The urban pigeon is often described in French as feral. The term refers to domesticated animal returned to wildlife and right state without human control. This definition does not apply to so-called urban rock pigeons. In French, the more accurate formulation would be an animal living freely after domestication. The roughback or pigeon is not a wild animal. It's domesticated animal living in liberty, still depend of humans for shelter, food, and survival. The research show that the lethal method, including shooting, gassing, use of birds of prey, poison grain, glue trap, neck wrestling, and various other tactics, are ineffective, illegal, cruel, and counterproductive. Populations originate with 4 or 12 months. Anti-pigeon nests are not selective, poorly installed and unsuitable. They'll cause thousands of bird deaths every year, including among protected species, agony, and lost several days. Birds die from thirst, hunger, heat, cold, and are eaten alive by rats, corvids, and ants and other predators. Non-selective capture cage expose birds to weather conditions, stress, and often lack of water and food. That leave them vulnerable to often open-air predation, capture birds, and are subsequently killed. Air rifle shooting are not always selective. Wounded birds may suffer for days before dying. Shooting are illegal in urban areas, yet they still carried out regularly. The opaque pigeon control market is another major issue. Cost and prevent pigeon control companies, they operate without expertise, without veterinary oversight, and without proper legal framework. Most are registered under NAF code 8029A, which authorize only disinfections, disinfections, and rodent control. This code do not cover the management of human wildlife. Their activities in this field are therefore entirely illegal. Their website disseminates false and exaggerated information in many of cases, particularly regarding the alleged health risk. Nevertheless, more than 70% of these companies are illegally offer pigeon control service, including major events such as the Salon des Maires de France in Paris. In addition, hunter private individuals and institutions authorized for wild fauna and isolated interventions also take part of practice. This involvement often results for informal arrangement or personal connection with the local authorities. Municipal decrees ordering destruction of urban pigeons are systematically devoid of legal basis in France. And some case does not even exist, rendering them unenforceable. Yet, culling operations are still carried out without judicial consequences. Municipalities spend substantial amounts of public money on ineffective lethal methods, even through ethical alternatives cost 10 times less. The effective ethical cost-efficient solutions are well established. Urban pigeon loft with contraceptive functions, hydrogen contraceptions, European standard for the installation nets, ensure selectivity and protecting isolated arms of wildlife. Public education campaigns restore scientific accuracy and counter misinformations. Cooperations between municipalities, department, regional authorities, national administration, volunteers, animal welfare associations, and veterinarians. These solutions are sustainable, economical, scientifically validated, and respectful for the living right. I'm going to close soon. If rock pigeons were disappear completely from cities, this would create major ecological, sanitary, and economic imbalance. Increase of human waste by 25 or 40% as pigeons contribute significantly to the natural removal of organic residue. Proliferations of rat, cockroaches, and other scavengers. The cities have attempted pigeon eradication observed 15% to 40% increase in rat populations, like Venice, Barcelona, New York. Corvid starlings, gulls, and other species will take their place. And the even greater impact the small spice lines, which are already in step decline. Species tend to be more aggressive, noisier, and often more problematic for humans. What we care for the Open Commission, we respectfully call for the development of European guidelines for ethical management of human pigeons, ban on lethal methods and dangerous devices, including nets, captured cages, and rifle shooting, poison grain, gassing, neck wrestling, and similar practice. Ban on surgical contraception, which is excessively invasive. Ban for the release of dogs or the columbids during public events, weddings, and similar ceremonies. Funding for pilot programs in several European cities. Reconnections for the rock pigeon and ban domestic animal recurring protection. Creation for an European expert group dedicated to this issue. In conclusion, it's a civilizational choice. Protecting the rock pigeon does not mean protecting a pest. It's been protecting highly sensitive, intelligent being, recognized by scientific research. Along a scientific companion humanity who, despite atrocities inflicted upon it, has remained faithful to us. A cultural and historical heritage. It means affirming that our city can be a place where humans and biodiversity coexist. It means choosing a Europe is modern, forward-looking, responsive, and respectful of life. I would like to thank Tierschutzpartei for this invitation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to Valerie and her personal translator. Our last official speaker for today is Serge Cognac from the Association of Pigeons in France. After this speaker, we will continue with the Q&A round, and everybody is allowed to speak here in this room. Serge, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Serge Cognac, president of a French association for the protection of pigeons. My presentation focuses on a key issue, the actual legal status of so-called feral pigeons in France, whether in urban or rural areas, and the practical consequences for municipal management practices. Before I begin, I need to clarify an important point about terminology. In English, feral usually means wild, but in French biology and French law, it means a domestic animal living freely. So, pigeons in France are not wild rock doves. They are genetically domestic animals, even if they live outdoors. French law recognizes this, even if many administrative authorities still treat them as if they were wild. Next slide, please. Now about the domestic status of pigeons in France. In France, pigeons living in cities and rural areas are not wild animals. This is established by several legal texts. Ministerial order of August 11, 2006. It defines domestic animals as species, breeds, or varieties modified by humans. Common pigeons are listed as domestic varieties of Columbia livia. Articles R411-5 and R413-8 of the Environmental Code, they define non-domestic species. By deduction, the pigeons present in France, originating from released or escaped domestic stock, are not wild animals. Truly wild populations of rock doves no longer exist in France. The last non-hybridized population survives only on a few isolated Scottish islands. University of Oxford, and 2022. Conclusion: in France, all rock doves in cities or outside cities are domestic animals. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. Now about a major inconsistency, the classification as a huntable species. Despite their domestic status, rock doves still appear on the French list of huntable species. This classification is scientifically incorrect, since no wild rock doves exist in France, legally inconsistent, as a domestic animal cannot be classified as a huntable species, a source of confusion for municipalities. This erroneous listing facilitates shooting operation, even though these birds are domestic and therefore not huntable. Next slide, please. The shooting in urban areas is a nearly illegal practice. In France, pigeons are not classified as species likely to cause damage. Exode. Air rifles are prohibited for both hunting and exode control. Shooting a domestic animal constitutes an act of cruelty. Yet, many municipalities hire private companies to shoot pigeons, use prohibited weapons, justify these actions by claiming pigeons are wild. These practices are illegal under French law. Next slide, please. The trapping and killing are also illegal. The French law requires that the killing of domestic animals must take place exclusively in approved slaughterhouses. Certain derogations exist, for example, for regulated animal diseases or genuinely dangerous animals. But these derogations are never invoked in municipal or prefectural orders concerning pigeons. In reality, pigeons are not affected by any regulated disease. Trapping companies kill pigeons by neck twisting, gassing, or other unauthorized methods. These practices fall outside the legal framework. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. Feeding bans, there is no legal basis. Feeding bans rely on Article 120 of the Departmental Health Regulation, prefectural order, municipal bylaws, but no law prohibits feeding pigeons. According to the Article 5 of the 1789 Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, the law has the right to forbid only actions harmful to society. What is not forbidden by the law cannot be prevented, and no one may be compelled to do what it does not order. A municipal or prefectural order cannot restrict a freedom without a legal basis. Moreover, feeding bans cause starvation among pigeons, death of nestlings, Professor Weckenagel from Basel, and obvious animal suffering. Feeding bans constitute cruelty and an awful restriction of freedom. Next last slide, please. And in conclusion, I will say that current pigeon management policies in France are based on legal error. The domestic status is ignored. Scientific error, no wild populations, illegal practices, shooting, trapping, starvation. A reform is needed too. Officially recognizes domestic status of rock doves, prohibit cruel and illegal methods, promote ethical and effective solutions such as contraceptive pigeon lofts, the only method recognized by the French Council of State. Contraceptive grain distribution exists, but remains controversial regarding its effectiveness and implementation. Thank you.
It's very bright. Thank you, Serge. Thank you all to all the speakers. Now we will open the floor here for the questions, remark, interventions, but please keep short and brief. We're running out of time, and I believe that all NGOs and experts here will be also available for follow-up questions and so on after this event. So the floor is open. Here's one first. Please introduce yourself and then say your question or your remark. You can sit. You can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Nike from Pigeon Project Rhein-Neckar, and I'm not a fan of long introductions, so we'll get right to the point. I think we talked enough about the problems, and I like to propose a solution. One essential problem is, as always, the finances. My proposal wants to change that with a pigeon tax. Sounds good, right? But who should pay it? And I think a group of people who is partly responsible for increasing the population, the breeders. It should be prohibited to release pigeons for sports, events, shows, and weddings, but it happens a lot and often, and a lot of the pigeons are ending up on the streets, and the population rises. Like every pigeon you see with a bit of white in it has a wedding pigeon in like the breeder line, and I think we should tax per animal per year for people who are like breeding pigeons who aren't rescued. Like if you have rescued pigeons at your home, I think completely fine, but like if you breed them, it should be taxed. And the biggest advantage of a tax like this is that it's not like the responsibility of the veterinary bureaus, but the finances, because like the veterinary bureaus are always overworked, but the finances, like they want to take more money. So I think it's fine. The money from this tax could be used for much needed education. And speaking of education should be responsible for the cities. Like the cities should be responsible to educate its people that pigeons aren't a problem or like aren't bad problem. And every city should also determine a person, or at least one person, who's responsible for the whole whole pigeon problem for the city, as some cities in Germany already have. I think, I don't know which city, but it also exists. Like it exists, and it should be worldwide, and every city should have one responsible person. And this person should get access to the money from the taxes, because if you don't have money, you can't do much. So they should get the money, and they should use it for the exchange and the education, because exchange is the best thing we can prevent. best thing we can do, and the thing we can prevent the most suffering. And that because like the less eggs the pigeons are laying, or like the less pigeons are are hatching, the less pigeons they're all together. And like for the parents, it's also a very huge relief if they don't have to feed like the young pigeons. And I think also the exchange should be the main focus of every pigeon animal welfare group. And the ideal solution would be, of course, a pigeon loft, but realistically, that would like require a lot of people who want to help the pigeons, and that's not that realistic. So I think the exchange is the thing we should put our focus on. And at last, I want to remind you that, of course, companies who make money with nets and spikes aren't our friends, and it's very hard to see them, but we need them. That's like, they're not our enemies. We need, like, sadly, we need the nets and spikes for coexisting. And we need, for example, for building a loft. If you build a loft, you need like the spikes and nets. So I don't think it's that productive to like fight against such companies, because as I said, we need them, and we need to work with everyone, even the people who hate the pigeons and work against the pigeons. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Any more questions or remarks? It was okay, please.
Oui, je voulais vous dire simplement, moi j'ai une association, mais je ne parle pas anglais. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui comprend le français? Ça va. Donc j'ai une association à XL, les plumes d'XL, pour essayer de défendre le problème des pigeons bisés en ville. Mais le problème des pigeons principal, c'est qu'ils ne peuvent pas être alimentés. Vous m'entendez?
So she comes from XL, and she said the main problem of the pigeon is that they cannot be nourished, qu'ils peuvent pas être alimentés.
C'est le pire de tout, parce qu'en fait, la cessation du nourrissage pour un animal domestique errant et dépendant, la privation de nourriture pour les pigeons, c'est le pire de tout. Et ils n'ont plus de vie. Et à Bruxelles, capitale, ça devient une catastrophe, l'état physique des pigeons, parce qu'ils souffrent énormément de carences alimentaires, malnutrition, dénutrition, chassés des logements un peu partout. Donc, Bruxelles Environnement veut retirer à ces animaux le maximum de possibilités de survie, mais c'est extrêmement violent.
So the main problem is really that they don't have any food. So they are starving, they are suffering, and that is really the main issue, is that there is no food for them, and so they are suffering a lot.
Oui, et puis en plus, mais bon. Et donc,
she importantly said that this is the official politic. What she said is that this is an official politic of the municipality of Brussels capital. That their intention is to starve pigeons, to chase them from everywhere, to deprive them from any appropriate food and places to feed.
Alors, j'ai demandé à XL, c'est ma commune, de placer des pigeonniers contraceptifs. Ils ne veulent pas entendre parler de pigeonniers contraceptifs. C'est beaucoup trop compliqué pour eux. Ils ne veulent pas. Donc, la seule solution qui est alternative à la cessation de la nourriture, c'est d'utiliser la contraception R12, mais pas la contraception R12 seule. Il faut absolument organiser un nourrissage complémentaire à la contraception pour un maximum de groupes en ville, pour enlever aussi tous les garrots des pattes et pour faire euthanasier la majorité des pigeons malades ou accidentés, parce qu'il n'y a pas de solution. Il faut moins de pigeons en ville qui souffrent moins, mais qui sont beaucoup plus respectés au niveau de leur alimentation, et au moins enlever tous les fils qui garrottent les pattes, et au moins ne pas les laisser crever seuls dehors comme la plupart du temps. Et j'ai eu à XL 40% de régulation des pigeons en 3 années, avec contraception plus alimentation et surveillance de l'état physique de la santé au quotidien. Donc ça fonctionne, C'est pas vrai que ça fonctionne pas. Ça fonctionne pas la contraception quand les pigeons ne sont pas alimentés, parce qu'alors ils se dispersent et ils ne vont pas forcément manger la contraception.
Okay, donc so in summarizing, she's active in Excel in the municipality of Excel with asking contraception with there's this company who is dispersing contraception R12 to pigeons, and in addition she feeds the pigeons because to bring them the appropriate dose, the needed dose of food per day to all pigeons. The contraception L12 is not food. It has a contraceptive effect, and what she observed for her municipality is a reduction of 40% of pigeons in 3 years.
Je veux dire que c'est parce que quand ils reçoivent la contraception
Mais
seule,
it is very improbable. It is impossible for Brussels to install pigeon lofts. This is totally out of discussion in Brussels, and it is the probability that this becomes a reality is very weak because of organizational problems. A pigeon loft demands a lot of care and maintenance, and Brussels does not want to invest in this. So what demands less of organization is this contraceptive pill. So if there's something that may work for Brussels, that is not the pigeon loft, unfortunately, but it is the pill because it demands much less organization. We are not Germany. We are here, Belgium, and I'm active in another city, and I can say that is very difficult in Belgium for city pigeons.
tu peux rajouter, c'est soit contraception plus alimentation, plus surveillance de l'état physique et euthanasie des malades et des accidentés parce qu'il faut moins de pigeons en ville, soit rien et c'est tout le monde qui crève de faim.
The solution that he sees as something working in a short term for the welfare of pigeons is a contraception. Of course, this is for Brussels. Is a contraception with L12, enough feeding for all pigeons so that they all get the food necessary for them to strengthen their immune system. So you have less sick pigeons. You have less pigeons walking around foods or around walking on streets, so that their feet don't get string, so that they don't get string feed. And feeding them allows the people who feed them to monitor pigeons, to isolate the sick pigeons, to help pigeons really in meaningful way by the stringing the feet, by isolating the sick. And what is best to do is, because we are totally lacking any possibilities to care for sick pigeons, is to euthanize sick pigeons and injured pigeons, because we don't have a place where to put them. We don't have people are much less aware of pigeon suffering. So it is, if there are people having some pigeons as pets in their gardens, it is so rare here in Belgium that for us it's totally difficult. It is extremely difficult to find adoptions. We as volunteers, we are lacking any parcel to build a loft for invalidated pigeons. So we can't keep this. We collect too many sick and injured pigeons to be able, we ourselves, to care for themselves. For people from Germany that do not know what means really a problem, they should
they should come here and hear what it means to be a volunteer for pigeons in Belgium. It is a disaster. It is a disaster. Nobody hears us. Nobody replies us from the municipality. Nobody, all their municipalities, and we have councillors for welfare. They treat us worse than rats. Okay, I won't even say pigeons, but worse than rats. So we are fighting with petitions. We are fighting with mailing actions, but this doesn't help. What we say is just silence and a rejection for whatever we propose. And we are so few as bénévoles, c'était quoi comment?
I'm so sorry, but we're running so out of time. So, but I think this is Europe too, same challenges and problems everywhere across the country. In some parts of Germany, it's better, but not in all. But maybe we, Tilly and me, maybe we can try helping you writing a letter to the municipality here in Brussels. Maybe we can stay in contact. Tilly, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to thank especially you, Sebastian, and also Anja Hazekamp, and also all the people, the voluntary and the NGOs that fight for better quality and protecting the pigeons. So, because I know it's really not an easy job, as you are often aggressed. I heard recently also Günther Jauch in Germany, quite a famous moderator attacking the pigeon. I found it lamentable. I don't know the word now in English, but so thank you very much for your commitment. You are really give hope and and our light in this tunnel. So thank you very much for what you are doing. I very appreciated all the inputs, also your presentation, very interesting. And the key element is, of course, education. I found it also interesting, the tax idea. And then also I never made the link about good food and contraception. Otherwise it doesn't function. So thank you very much to all of you. I'm happy as people that you exist.
Thank you, Tilly. Are there any questions from online participants or in the chat or wherever? Okay, last chance here to say something. Yes, but please brief, both of you.
I also would like to exchange on the tax proposal with you later. But yeah, perhaps it's not the discussion with the people now around you. It made a good contrast with the discussion before them, because these are people that know the reality of pigeons, and what they have said was great, and I congratulate them for their good presentations. And it's kind of a critique, and it is really disappointing that the people that spoke before them didn't stay here to hear what people that have the experience, the life experience among pigeons have to say. Because I think what people say, what the speakers before them said, it was quite vague. First, speaking about wood pigeon, which is not a domestic pigeon, it is completely different problem, but it's not even a problem. It is just, but okay, it shows like inconsistency on vision about, and then Nick from European Group for Pigeons.
Nick is still over there. It's only Anja who left us because of other appointments.
Okay, then yeah, that's good. Okay, yeah, I thought you left and you couldn't follow the discussion.
Yeah, just to say, I followed it very closely. I would like to mirror Tilly's points as well. Very, very interesting what you're saying in what's needed in Excel, and I actually agree. So yeah, it's been super interesting to hear everybody's point of view, and as everybody said here, we can do our best to push this message forward. So yeah, I was listening.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That's great. Sorry for having not seen before.
But yeah, once I brought to Europe for animals, nobody replied. I indeed stated that I would like to participate in your actions, and yeah, what can I? And then nobody replied. I remained as usual without answer. I stated that I'm going to defend pigeons. I would like to do it. They said nobody replied, so I'm happy that now somebody's there. And
sorry, but we must stay a little bit shorter. There was a last. Robert, there's one message, one speaker online. Doreen Rote, please introduce yourself and comment in a very short way because we're running out of time.
Yeah, hi, I'm Doreen Rote from Berlin in Germany, and I'm also caring for pigeons. And I just wanted to stress once again that I think the most important thing is shifting the responsibility to those responsible for the problem, which are the breeders and this legal status. That's, I think, from my point of view, these are the most important points. And maybe we can concentrate on this because it's, yeah, something which can be done maybe in Brussels as well. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you very much. It was short and very important.
I wanted to say, especially to you, I think suffering should be measured, shouldn't be measured, and we should unite. And I don't understand why you said, like, in Germany we have it other than you, because, like, we are all fighting that pigeons are having a better life. In some places it's easier, but not easy. Like, it's not easy. I was yesterday a person like screamed at me at the street, and I was so often like called out, and it's not nice. But that's not the point. I wanted to ask if like we could all like talk after it, and if there's a plan for like going to lunch together or something like that, because I would really like to talk with everyone. And so I wanted to.
There's so much lunch over there. Please eat here more.
But can we stay here and eat and talk, or can we do it outside some place?
There's a reservation for the room after this event, so we have to leave. But our office, our plan is to give you all a short tour through the parliament, and then we have an exchange in my office after this.
Thank you very much. That's what I wanted.
Okay. I think that's all. Thank you very much for being here in the parliament today. Thank you all for every egg exchanged. Thank you for every pigeon cared for in Germany, in Brussels, everywhere. Thank you for giving us such deep insights into your daily work. I very much hope that this can mark the beginning of a closer cooperation across everywhere and also at the European level. It is important to me to emphasize once again that educating the public must be a central element. Pigeons are not dirty. They are not full with diseases or whatever. Rather, they are our responsibility because we are to blame for their daily suffering and their struggle to survive. We must take a clear political stand in all countries across Europe. Pigeon races are not a cultural heritage that needs to be protected. Wedding pigeons are not romantic. Killing pigeon is never a solution, not in Germany, not in Belgium. No. Instead, we must create comprehensive solutions that comply with animal welfare standards. To support NGOs and cities in this effort, we will publish a summary of the best practices across Europe in the coming weeks. Please send to my office any additional informations, pictures, and we will put it all together, and we will try to help you working on your everyday work. Thank you again, and please contact my office, Anja's office, also Tilly's office, if there's anything we can do to help you all. Thank you for your work. Thank you for being the voice of the animals, of the pigeons. Thank you for being here in the parliament. And now please continue eating at the buffet and have a good day. Thank you very much.